Alrighty, I call the December 7th meeting of our Borough Council to order. The time is 7:31. Please rise for the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. McCann?
Here.
Ms. Siegel-Morris?
Here.
Mr. Ross?
Here.
Mr. Feiner?
Here.
Mr. Curtin?
Present.
Ms. Thompson?
Present.
Mr. Brea? Mr. Brea?
You want to?
Yeah, I can't hear it. You guys have that? Okay, I'll text Paula.
We can hear you. Text me if you hear it.
Hello?
We can hear you now, but I'm sure Mr. Finer said here it's cut out. Yeah, it was dead.
Now let's try it now. Still good?
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you, but we can't hear anything else yet, but yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and say they're all here.
Are there any community announcements? We'll start with members of council. Mayor, any community announcements?
No. Thank you.
Members of the public, any community announcements? Yes.
I just want to let you know, friends of mine were trying to listen to the council meeting online, and it was almost their sound.
Always or just last time?
It's been a while, but I mean, I asked somebody if she had seen it recently, and she said every time I do, I can't get the sound. And then I know somebody last week was commenting that too.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, I know, so that-
Maybe pull the microphone
Oh, it's
down.
you.
All of us. Okay.
Sorry, because when I started out with listening to you, and I think they quit.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just thought I'd kind of. Michelle Scherer, President of Friends of Lake Afton. I just wanted to tell you, or remind you, that this coming Saturday, the 11th, Friends of Lake Afton will be down at the community center from 2 to 5. It's called All Things Yardley Gift Shop. So everything that we sell that day, all the money goes to Friends of Lake Afton to help take care of Lake Afton. And if you need any gifts for the holidays or whatever you want to get for yourself.
Give us a taste. What are you selling? What are some of the items?
Oh my God.
I saw some pictures.
I thought you might have. This is my list.
Awesome.
We have, we've had before note cards, holiday cards, proofs of notes, stuff like that, license plates, but we've had that before. New items we have are hot pads for the kitchen. We have 6 Lake Afton ornaments to choose from. We have memory games for little children with the, how many it is, but you get 2 of everything, you match it up. Or matching games, some people call it. Puzzles. Fola has a sun visor and a baseball hat now. And I have stainless steel insulated travel mugs with handles that are stainless steel, so it's really nice that you don't get the plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, Yardley PA on it with I have one with a duck, one with a heron, one with a picture of Lake Afton. So, rather that, wine bag, like cloth wine bags with photos and things like that. Some are just say Lake Afton or Yardley, some say greetings from Yardley. So, lots to choose from. Regular gift bags for features. Aprons are the hot commodity right now. I have people contacting me from Texas and South Carolina, and just some locals too, wanting to know if I will mail them.
Okay.
They say, life's just up to you, Marley. And everything, like I said, and of course my account will be there.
Awesome.
So come down and check us out. Just see what we're doing. Maybe we'll do there's a kind of a lack of product to get, like the souvenirs annually. So the pandemic had me thinking, so I decided to see what I could do to.
I ask you a question,
Remedy.
Michelle? Are you accepting donations, like we have postcards and stuff? Like, you have a mural?
Donations?
I would give it to you.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, Laura Brandt also will have some photos there.
Okay.
She's going to give us some photos herself.
Well, we wish you lots of luck and thank you, Michelle, for coming.
Thank you very much.
Any other community announcements? Going once? Going twice? Okay, thank you. We'll now move to public comment. This is the portion of the meeting where you can address items that are not on the agenda. Please come forward to the mic, state your name and address. You're permitted to speak for 3 minutes on each issue that you would like to speak about. All comments should be directed to council and not back and forth between members in the audience. Any public comment tonight? Yes.
Michelle Scherer, 31 North Main Street. I just wanted to ask if it's possible, because of accidents on North Main Street, particularly in front of my house, and the more recent accident that took out the end of the guardrail, if there's any way that we could look into, I noticed they have on the middle of the road here on East Afton, like the, what do you call that, that they cut into the road? They cut into...
Rumble strips.
Yes, rumble strips, yes. So I was wondering if we could, if our petition, to see if we could do that in the meeting.
Really around the bend?
Mostly there, because they missed the bend and
Yep, that's right.
I went to my mailbox, but I had heard, and I don't know if this is true, maybe you know, I had heard that years ago, 3 girls drove off of off of North Main Street into Lake Afton and drowned. It's part of an underwater.
I don't know that to be true.
I don't know. So we heard that. So why are we like, as to why there's a guardrail?
I do know there have been cars that have gone into Lake Afton. I don't know that anyone.
Okay. Well, in any case, going into Lake Afton is not a nice thing. I'm sure it's not easy to get out of the muck.
It probably was, the one I know was probably 80, but I just heard about
It
it.
was 3 girls, is what I had heard. Yes, you know, it could have expanded by now. But anyway, I didn't know if they could put that, the rumble strips in the middle of the road and also on the edge of the road, just sort of to try to keep people from going all the way off.
Councilperson Theodore, can public safety take up this item and look into feasibility?
And there's also an outside group of North Main traffic group who's probably looking at speeding and other issues, and that can meet fairly regularly, but they're present sometimes at harvesting and things.
Okay.
I work as a liaison to them. but
Yeah,
also-
some of it's speeding, some of it's, you know, driving, you know. Or one time a woman fell asleep driving. They should look at that.
Yep, we'll take that advice. Thank you, Michelle. Any other public comment this evening? Okay, we'll move on to consideration of the consent agenda dated December 7th, 2021. The consent agenda includes approval of the minutes dated November 16th, approval of the bills list dated December 7th, and approval of certificate of appropriateness 21-34 for 180 South Canal Street, the roof. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion of any of the items? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to the police chief's report, please.
Thank you, ma'am. 3 items tonight. The first is statistics for November 2021. In November 2021, we handled 519 calls for service, issued 61 moving traffic citations, we issued 1 parking ticket, investigated 11 motor vehicle accidents, and made 2 arrests. Both arrests were for DUI. Second item is the coat drive. The coat drive ended last week. We were fortunate enough to collect 196 coats which we turned over to the Advocates for the Homeless in Need, and 4 other items for a total of 200 items that will benefit people who are most in need. The last item is the inaugural Bucks Blue radio show, which will be on December 21st at 1 p.m., going against their most popular show, Yardley Borough on Air. So if you're tuning in to listen to the mayor anyway, come an hour earlier, and you can learn what's going on in law enforcement in our county.
Never had a better leading, Chris.
And that's my report now.
Thank you, Chief Kelly. Any questions for Chief? Okay, moving on to the manager's report.
I have a couple things before we get into the budget. The doors on Borough Hall are going to be installed Thursday and Friday. And I want to thank the YBA and all those who organized the parade on Saturday. The PD, all the volunteers that made it happen. There was an amazing number of spectators. A great time was had by all. Santa did arrive. There will be no trash collection on Christmas Day or New Year's Day, so please put it on your Facebooks as well to get the news out. And the first meeting of Borough Council in 2022 will be on Monday, January 3rd. It's all set and ready to be advertised.
So for the trash collection, are we just not having it?
Yeah, they're just not having it, because then they would have to call in the men on a Sunday if we really wanted them to. So they'll just do it that Wednesday for both of those weeks.
Any other questions?
Well, you said Monday, not Tuesday in January, or is it
Yeah, it's Monday,
It's a
because it's a
Monday.
reorganization meeting, so it has to be on Monday.
first day? Okay.
Yeah.
And so then there won't be a meeting on Tuesday.
Nope,
Okay.
that'll be the regular meeting and the reorganization
Got
meeting.
it.
Okay, and then we have our budget discussion. And I presented council with 2 separate budgets, one with the grant for the Mary Yardley Bridge and one without the Mary Yardley Bridge and going forth without. If we move forward with the grant, it'll save us approximately $90,000. We anticipate using $80,000 from capital reserve if we do not obtain this grant, and about $13,000 from, capital projects, and $13,000 from capital reserve if we have to go without getting the grant or if we're unsuccessful. So that's a discussion that I know council is anxious to have on which way to move forward. We also, Patty and I did meet with one resident who came and spent an hour with us. And because of some of his suggestions, we did make some changes to some of our line items. One being real estate transfer tax, we did up that a little. And then looking at the police motor vehicle tickets, we lowered that a little. We think people will start behaving more. And that's about the only things that we did change. And besides working on the Mary River Bridge and the sidewalks. So now's that time for that discussion.
Thank you. Any questions for Manager Johnson based on what she presented and what we received?
As a procedural matter, so if we were to approve the budget assuming the grant, and the grant doesn't happen, right? At that point in time, what would be the implication? We wouldn't be able to do the bridge, or we'd have to come back here?
We would still do the bridge because we do have the funds secured in other areas as the capital projects.
Yep.
It's going to be there. If we have to use it, it's there. If we don't have to use it, we can use it for something else. And then we have the capital reserves.
Yep.
If we need it, it's there. If we don't have to use it, then we keep on saving for the future. So the money is there, but it's just, you guys need to decide if you want to really push forward and get this bridge.
It's really a timing issue, then,
It's a
right?
timing
Do
issue.
we want, okay, sorry.
But then we also have to keep in mind that they have to go back to PHMC and get an approval for the new materials because there's a change in what was approved. That could take probably a couple months if nobody moves fast for anything when we say Mary River Bridge. And then also we are renewing the agreement with DCNR as well, and that can take up to 6 months as well. So we might not even be able to throw a shovel into the ground until summer anyway. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're deciding.
You know, to Councilperson Curtin's point, I think the good thing about that we drafted these 2 budgets is we do have that contingency plan that we're running now. Councilperson Ross, do you want to say any more about timeline on the bridge, since that's really what we're comparing here?
We've been contacting the HMC and everybody involved with the bridge regularly, as in more than once a week. So I think the timeline for it, if everything works out, is going to be the spring. If it is delayed, then it might be into the summer, but myself and Public Works has been working towards getting the bridge done as soon as possible at all costs. So if there could be a delay, because there's delays in everything, but if there's no delays, then it will be the spring. So, and there's still a possibility, we are redrafting the agreement, but there is a possibility that the bridge will be done before the agreement even expires. So I can't tell because everybody has to say okay, but it's looking like it's going to be done this spring and not this summer.
I would like to just say to that I don't think we have the luxury to. Normally, if this was 5 years ago, it'd be great. Let's try to get a grant. If we get it, we get it. If we don't. That bridge is going to fall into the canal. We really, I don't know if it's going to get to the winter. I mean, it just, we're doing the right thing by pushing ahead. We've got, so I just want to say that when we look at this budget, that we should be looking at it in terms of paying for the bridges we expected, rather than starting more processes of looking for grants and risking that there will be no bridge at all, which would be a disaster.
So, just as a reminder, we always have the option as a council to reopen the budget at any point during the year if there's substantial changes needed. So, given that the timeline is so unknown at this point, and given the history of the bridge, we thought it would be a 6-month project. It's now been, 10 years, 15 years? So, there might be an argument to be made that we adopt a budget hoping for the grant, hoping that the timeline lines up, and then we could reopen the budget using that contingency plan to tap into more of our reserve funds if needed, and if the timeline works out that way. That's kind of where I am right now.
I would just echo Matt's statement that I think, from a budgeting standpoint, it seems to me to be most prudent. There's no guarantee we get the grant even at the end of the day. Whether we move forward, it just seems from a budgeting standpoint, the most logical path for me would be to move forward without the grant in the budget, and then if we get that windfall, that savings by chance, that would be great, and we could look to allocate that later in another period or show it to the following year. That's just.
I'm in the same place. The only thing, again, thinking about too many different possibilities. If we were to approve the budget and pay for the bridge at a capital reserve and capital projects, and then we get the grant, I think the understanding is the money goes back to replenish capital reserve but you never know what happens between now and then, right? I'd love to sort of have that as part of the budget, so we're kind of obligated to do that.
Can we do that? How does the reimbursement work?
If we do the bridge ahead of time, construction is done, and then we are awarded the grant, I don't think it's retroactive.
It depends on how the project is. If we're still waiting for approvals, then it's still covered. Like if the bridge is done, but everything's not rubber stamped by all the departments and everything, the bridge isn't actually done.
So then we can use that grant money?
Yeah, as long as the project's not closed out, yes.
Okay.
And my only point is if that were to be the scenario and the timeline of how it played out, it's not really a windfall. At that point, I want to go back and replenish capital reserve and capital, which I think we all agree.
Yeah.
Figure out how we document that.
And what happens when we don't get the grant and we don't have a windfall? How do we replenish that money that's been out of the capital reserves?
So that's money that was earmarked for the sidewalk, right?
Sidewalk and then other projects can go on.
So we're pushing sidewalk timeline back.
That's unusual.
Time to do some humor tonight. So Becky, how does this work with, we have 2 budgets, we already had one preliminary version that was put out for public inspection. How do we proceed? Can we adopt either one tonight?
You can adopt either one, so somebody really needs to make a motion on one or the other budget for council to consider.
Other
So
comments?
budget A is with the grant, budget B is without the grant. How's that?
And just to be clear, the issue is if we go with budget A, it means we have to wait to see if we get the grant, and then we, okay, yeah, it's a foundation. Okay, well, I would like to make a motion that we approve budget B, which contemplates moving forward sooner on the bridge and utilizing funds from capital projects and capital reserves, with the understanding that we're obviously going to try and get the grant after the fact.
Just follow language, we need to adopt, please, instead of approve.
Sure.
Can you do that?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion from members of council? Members of the public?
So,
Is this the time to talk about the budget in general, just the specific thing you're doing now?
Yeah, budget in general.
Don Carlson, 14 Creekview. I'm one of the people who went through the budget as proposed in detail. And I just wanted to make a couple comments on the process and my takeaway from it. My takeaway is that you have what I would call a conservative budget. I think your assumptions on the revenue side are conservative in most areas, and your assumptions on the expense side are conservative as well. And that's not surprising based on the philosophy that you used last year, which said go for a 16% increase in taxes and not have to come back to the table this year. And obviously that strategy has worked. So having no increase this year is good, but that was a fait accompli based on what we did last year. The only comment, and other line items, and I went through various line items, and I don't see any major issues. The one thing that I'd like to comment on for you to think about in the future is the way the budget process and what comes out of it. It's a lot of numbers. I have to be a spreadsheet guy, so it's not a problem. But being able to communicate what's basically in the budget. For instance, particularly this coming year, now that inflation is an issue. In the past, inflation I haven't really had to worry about too much. So it would be nice to know that the assumptions in the 22 budget, let's take a couple simple ones. Let's take fuel costs. Is the number in the budget under the assumption that fuel rates are going to be 40% higher than you experienced this year, or are we going to do 40% more miles? So that some assumptions presented at that point. You present the budget a few weeks ago to say, here are our assumptions for 22 about inflation, about energy probably as a subset, probably energy and in general inflation, so that it's clear, more clear, what path we're going down. And the second thing that I would recommend going forward too is if there's a possibility that comes sometime like in the May timeframe, and it may begin in September or October, that how are we doing? Not made public to just in the numbers, but a presentation being made. Hey, we thought revenues, we're sitting here next April, we thought the snow-related expenses were going to be X. It was a good winter or a bad winter. We're running a little behind. We got this, that, so the revenues, where they do. So we have a feel for where we are, and particularly the assumptions about what's going to happen with inflation. And if anybody on council could share with me your general approach that you used in 2022 relative to inflation. Was your belief that it was going to go away, it was small, or what was the general philosophy relative to inflation that's embedded in the 22 budget?
Well, I think a lot of the costs, a lot of the costs are fixed, right? There's not a lot of variable costs in the budget as a starting point, right? I mean, a lot of it that relates to salaries, professional services, and things that we contract, we largely kept fixed because we know contractually what they're going to be. On the variable stuff, energy, fuel costs, I think we did real estate, on the revenue side, right? We are concerned about the real estate transfer stuff. We talk about it. We just are because we happen to be. I don't know that we had an overall, like I can't summarize in one soundbite the philosophy around, what did we assume, a 2 or 3% increase? It's like a 3%. We assume a 3% cost increase in almost all variable stuff as like a, without getting into like the specifics of each one. So if it was like telephone cost, if it was mileage, if it was energy cost,
Then my last request would be on the special projects. I'm trying to keep them straight in my head, but I'll admit it's not that easy to keep them straight. You know, when we sat here a year ago, or when we proposed the additional mills for a capital project, it's not totally clear to me what the plan was, how much we planned to spend on these 10 capital projects, how much we spent, and then what are the key ones for next year. I think I know what they are now, but just presenting so everybody has a handle on what are those extra things we're doing besides the normal stuff. What are the extra things that council has decided we're going to do, and what's going on with the cost of that would be a nice thing. And part of my reason I bring that up is because bring up the where are we halfway through the year, et cetera, is if there are pockets of money available, I'd like to see us act sooner rather than later, and specifically on the audiovisual thing. I know we wanted to get, why not, if there's money at the end of this year, it's too late now. But 3 months ago, we said, hey, if we're running okay, and we didn't get killed by snow, we're running okay at the end of September, boom, let's pull the trigger and do the audiovisual thing instead of, and have a low, medium, and high quote, Cadillac version and a Chevette version, and then decide and pull forward on some of those things if we're doing okay. So those are just a couple of my comments.
Yep. And I think with the capital millage, that's routed into a reserve account. It's meant to be a reserve savings account, so it's not planned for anything. We tap into it when we exceed a budgeted amount for a project, or if we have an unforeseen capital project in the year.
But even in the planned capital projects, if for some reason they're moving from year to year, sliding something else in that everybody knows we need to be considered.
That makes sense. So, Paula, next year, you think you can build into your budget message assumptions made, percentage of those assumptions, and then we can definitely, general government reviews are quarterly, year to date, how we're doing the budget, but making those public, doing a little presentation, we could definitely do that next year.
Particularly if inflation is much different next year than what people are saying now, it'd be good to know, how's it doing for us here in this world.
Right. Thank you, Don. Uri and David, been quiet over there. I just want to make sure we haven't missed you trying to talk.
You haven't, but I would like to chime in now and just to follow up to something Mr. Carlson said. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I just want to make sure that we are all clear that we have a capital reserve fund, which is different from the capital project fund we've been discussing. And that capital project fund, I think, is important for all of us to know, are the proceeds from the line of credit, right? So those are borrowing funds. And in Budget A, we are talking about allocated $80,000 of that line of credit towards the Mary Arden Bridge project. In the event that we don't get this grant, I think that is certainly a wise way to spend these funds. But I'm personally of the opinion that we should pursue the budget that has the grant. I'm a little nervous about drawing a full $80,000 on that capital project fund against that line. So we've already made the draw on the line of credit, but it would deplete that fund to I think $97,000. And given that we do have matches on phase 2 of the sidewalk, we're still in final negotiations for acquiring the Pico lot. We have a good budget, but there's still some uncertainty. And I would hate to see it packed too tightly into a corner when we don't need to be. So I don't mind that we should adopt a budget that assumes we're awarded the grant. If it looks like that's going to work out, where the timeline for construction is much sooner in the year than that grant award is going to come, I think we could discuss a budget adjustment at that time. And that's my feedback.
Yeah, I think regardless of budget that's adopted, it's full steam ahead. I just am assuming, given history, that full steam ahead is not going to be as quick as we all would hope it would be. Uri, you have anything?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think this is great. I appreciate Don to bring up the inflation issue, and it's something that needs to be talked about a lot. I million, right? So that's before inflation went out of control. Now we have inflation, but a lot of times we might talk about the consumer price index, which is 6% or whatever. But when you talk to people who deal with concrete or stone or steel or lumber, so those rates are way higher than 6%. And therefore, and regardless of what we hear about this is transitory, it's not, that's a debate we don't have to get into here, but I think where it affects the borough is I strongly recommend we act as if those increases are not going away anytime soon, and they're going to keep happening. And therefore, with a project like, obviously we're doing the sidewalk, but sidewalk or bridge, the sooner we get these projects worked on, the better. If you look at the receipt of the bridge, it says something like, I'm guessing resin surcharge should be 20%. I mean, I'm guessing that's because the price of resin went up. I mean, it's crazy. So the thing is that time is very expensive. If we can get a grant in the time frame, great. But I think we need to move forward with all of these projects as quickly as possible because we're going to save money in the end. If we had done them 5 years ago, we would have saved a lot of money. But, water up the bridge doesn't matter. Let's think of it now as another reason to get these things, start with start digging dirt. The other thing I just want to make a note of for next year's council is, and just to remind everyone here, I think also certain general government passed, is that, when the cost of everything goes up, the assessments don't go up because most of the houses in the borough are pre-existing. We don't reassess everything like a lot of municipalities do in this county. So basically, it seems inevitable that council's going to have to consider the cost of inflation and do some sort of inflationary look into the need to do an inflationary tax increase. Nobody wants a tax increase, right? But not for this year, not for next year. But I'm just planting the seed because someone's got to save. The thing is that if you don't do these increases on a regular basis, even if they're tiny increases, when you do finally have to do them, you have to do these 16% increases, which are huge. And if we can match the rate of inflation as we're doing it, I think it's actually better for the residents because you don't get into a deficit and having to catch up. So that was the second point outside the budget. And I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we have discussed in general government a small millage increase for next year. Nothing's set in stone yet, but it is good to do incremental over large. Agreed on that point. Any other questions before I call the vote? Okay, so Marianne, let's do a roll call on this. We already have the motion in the second.
Okay, so this is for motion B, for without
Budget B.
Budget B, excuse me. Mr. McCann?
Wait, so sorry, can you, budget B is the one with the grant? or
Without.
Without.
Okay.
Aye.
Ms. Siegelworks?
I,
Mr. Burton?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Finer?
Aye.
Mr. Bria?
Nay.
And Ms. Thompson?
Nay.
The ayes have it.
Thank you. Now, going hand in hand with this, we will have to move to adopt Resolution 21-12, which is the tax rates for 2022. As previously said, there is no increase. Do I hear this motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this? From council? From the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Alrighty, moving on to engineers report, please.
Thank you. We issued out the engineer's report, and I'll just touch on a few of the projects. Regarding the Mary Yardley Bridge, we'll be coordinating with PHMC to supplement our application with the new information, in the coming weeks. For the North Main Street Phase 2, we're still working and trying to obtain approval from PennDOT so that we could advertise. For Phase 3, we are working on our engineering services proposal, and we'll forward that over once it's finalized as well. Then we are working on the FEMA elevation projects, and we'll be coordinating and issue out a schedule so that could be given to Paula to keep moving forward on that as the designs are being moved forward. And that's all of my report.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, and on the phase 2, what's the process for the bidding and next step? Like we need approval for.
We need PennDOT to say it's okay.
Yes.
So everything we've done so far, and we've been waiting for 8 weeks now. Once they say it's okay, which should hopefully be within the next 2-3 weeks, we can just send it out to bid. And then once we get a bid, we can approve the bid, and then we can break down and start.
So there'll be an advertising period.
Right.
The bid period.
Right, but I guess the point is it's PennDOT.
Yeah, old.
Gotcha.
Any questions? Project updates, or were those included in your
Those
engineer's
were
report?
included.
Okay, great. Solicitor's report.
Thank you. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Mayor's report.
Thank you. Just very quickly, in following up on Chief Kelly's announcement about the Bucks Blue radio show, I would just encourage everyone in Yardley. I don't think there is another local community that has 2 top-rated radio shows. So this is not my show, it's Yardley's show, the one I do. I just happen to be the host. So I would encourage everyone on council and the public to please be involved. I think we've got great access to the community with these radio shows to send a message and promote things. So we always welcome ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Council member reports. We'll start with Councilperson Curtin.
No report.
Councilperson Ross.
No report.
Councilperson Moore.
No practicing.
Anyone have a report?
I'll have a report.
Okay, great.
We did talk in community economic development. One issue did come up, and I did read it recently, but I don't think there was any correspondence that will raise for Yardley Borough residents who use Lower Makefield Township Pool. They're voting on that next week, whether they're going to get the non-resident rate. There's always been kind of a relationship with Lower Makefield Township, a collegiality there. And I do think as a council, it's disappointing that no notice was sent over to us about this before even voting on it or talking about it. Because I do think there's a special relationship between Lower Makefield and Yardley. Certainly we put on events here that, the whole area attends, and I think there is that shared relationship. And it's unfortunate that they're looking to let that expire. Because I know they mentioned that they about 75 families in Yardley use the Lower Makefield Township Pool. But just in the news, I think people should be aware of it, that they're voting on that, whether to get rid of the Yardley Borough residents as non-resident for the pool.
Yeah, I believe the Parks and Rec meeting for Lower Makefield is December 15th, so a week from tomorrow, if anyone would like to attend. You're encouraged to do so. Any other council member reports this evening?
Yeah, I don't have a report. I just wanted to follow up a little bit on what John mentioned, kind of as it pertains to our Makefield. As a whole, my advice to the rest of the council at this point would be that we need to keep an eye on Lower Makefield and what they're doing. I think that them pulling back this deal with the pool rate, it's unfortunate if you remember, it's not a huge deal. But it's reminiscent of the way the town board of supervisors and their management handled the sewer sale, which is essentially refusing to engage in discussion with the borough about it in any good faith at all. So I just want to issue words of caution because we have other shared services with the township, and if some of those change, it could have serious negative impacts for our community. So I think we all need to be mindful. I know that, we meet twice a month, and you probably don't want to spend time watching Lower Mayfield meeting, but we all need to make sure that we stay apprised of what happens with our neighbors.
Thank you.
Council President, has there been discussion having appointing a liaison from this council to be an official liaison to be in communication with that council. I don't think we've had official discussions about it. It's probably a good idea. And something I think we should definitely consider in the new term having someone fill in a role.
I will say that Manager Johnson works closely with a lot of managers in neighboring municipalities. Some are more open to that than others. Would you agree, Manager Johnson? But she does routinely reach out to try to compare notes on budgets and other events and resolutions that different areas are considering. So LMT has not always been as open to that. Anything else? Any discussion items tonight that aren't on the agenda?
Sorry, there is one community outreach. Actually, are we still on council report?
Sure.
Oh yeah, just a quick note about this. I'll be finishing my term this month. But I wanted to throw out the idea of there's some reworking happening of the Borough website, but I would be happy with my time not being on council to volunteer to keep the visiting Yardley part of the website updated, and then perhaps we could move that into a volunteer function. This is not really essential for the residents, but it's a nice thing to have, and it's kind of a nice collection of businesses and things to do that we have available in the borough. It's nice to see it all in one place like that. I'm not asking for the official, I'm just suggesting the idea.
Thank you. All right, any discussion items tonight that are on the agenda? We'll move to other business. Councilperson Siegel Morris.
I would like to propose a motion for council to approve a new contract negotiated for Chief Kelly. Some of the highlights of that would be bringing the contract length in line with the police contract. Most of the changes to the contract were updates to align the language and the amenities to match that of the police, among other things.
Please do go into specific details. I think that's important.
Okay, so we increased the holiday time. We put in an education allowance, $700 for a master's degree. If Chief were called to jury duty, he would be reimbursed the difference between jury pay and his pay here. It's highly unlikely that he would be asked to serve on a jury. Mayor can recall from the other
5% pay increase year over year, which is what we granted the other police officers.
I think a lot of the items that we're bringing contracts in line with the current full-time officers, including use of vehicle officers.
Yes. As seen by the mayor, and if we're not needed for an emergency,
So, would you like to make a motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions from council or comments? Questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, and thank you, Chief Kelly. I will now ask for a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss personnel matters. There will be no votes following executive session.
So moved.
Do I hear a second? All right.
We just did.
All right, cool. I went screen.
Okay, well, thanks for sending me that
Chief
email.
Kelly to
Real quick, Mary Yardley Bridge is a pedestrian bridge?
Yes.
No vehicles?
Right, it's a walking bridge,
Over the canal?
yes.
And what did you say, 80,000 would come out of where?
Out of our capital projects.
And 13 out of capital reserve.
Correct.